you say is a thread or a limiting belief that you find in all of those circles?
A limiting belief in general. I'm doing it wrong is a comment. The self-doubt, imposter syndrome, oddly enough, hits so many. It shows up different ways. The fear of screwing up the opportunity, right? The concept of deserve. I don't deserve it. No matter what I do, you already got it. You already got it, and you're worried you don't deserve it.
Hello, welcome to the Shattered Mindset Podcast. Wisdom from life's turning points and defining moments. I'm your host, Melvin Larry, and today I'm here with a good friend from a little ways back, my friend Harold Branch III. How you doing, my friend?
I'm wonderful, brother. Hey, thank you for having me, for inviting me. It means a lot. Absolutely honored to be here.
You mean a lot, my friend. You mean a lot. And it's just, it's exciting to have you here, to have you to joining us right now. And listen, I think that that your being here and I really mean this from the bottom of my heart, is a crowning moment for me with my podcast here, because you bring so much. You've done so much, and the theme of my podcast being centered a lot around men, life lessons, mindset, limiting beliefs, and things of that sort. And then with the background that you have, and the education and the trainings that you have, and the experiences, you just are an absolute perfect fit for what we do. So, you and I go back some years, I don't know what, 15 years or what,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, about that, because I've been involved since '03.
Wow, this long, 20 years.
20 years. Because
20 years.
when did you get involved with
Right, like the first day of '03.
Oh, well, yeah. So it's been 20 years.
So we were
And
both
we
little bitty
probably ended up
boys
really
then, huh?
crossing paths about a year later, really engaging. So that's still 20 years. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. We crossed paths about a year later. Yeah, and just started to engage, and I appreciate that, but your journey began really probably a lot time long before that. And so, if you don't mind, could you just take us back and maybe introduce yourself a little bit to us?
Absolutely. And I give kind of a nice condensed version, and I'm sure we'll go into more details as we get into some of the deeper topics and areas of discussion.
Yeah.
But grew up in Chicago, from the west side of Chicago. Was raised by my aunt and my granny, in Granny's house, all the uncles as well, and my older brother and my older sister. They definitely played this kind of surrogate father-mother roles for me as well. Moved to Arizona when I was 16, was there for a while. My background is poetry. I'm a writer. I got involved in poetry young and really loved it. Continued to write and did that, performed a lot. Got a chance to do some really, really awesome things with that. Kind of used that almost as the out once I got into Arizona and really nurtured it. Got traveled around the world. I'm doing some really great things with the poetry, really exciting experiences. And from there, finished school, went back to Chicago for some years. So it's just been that back and forth between Chicago and Arizona. I
Yeah.
always tell people I'm from Shy-Zona and kind of thing.
And they work that shot all kind of ways, don't they?
All kind of ways, brother. All kind of ways. All kind of ways. Got involved in a lot of community work. Always been really active in the community. Always had a heart for the fighting the good fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just got a Panther in my blood, right? And so was always real community-based, community-focused. Found myself doing a lot of work in mental and behavioral health with young people. My sister was doing it. I was good at it. I identified. So I found myself in that space. Always been a deep thinker. I like to think, right? And that helped that as well. But social services and poetry doesn't pay any money, and had to figure that part out. And that's why I got introduced to our mutual business. And that has been a beautiful journey, a beautiful home-based business in our Team New Vision family. That's when I started nurturing the business side of myself, about 25 years old. And then from there, open mics and poetry events. I'm the founder of a home-based poetry,
Hmm.
something open mic venue and an event that was going on here in the Valley for well over 15 years. Really, really proud of the successes there. Went back to school at one point, so I'm finishing now my doctorate in performance psychology
Outstanding.
after completing my master's in psychology with an emphasis in coaching. So really continue to just go down that path and learn. And more importantly, husband, right? Father, right? Father of,
The good
you know,
stuff
two
there, really good
beautiful
stuff.
biologicals that I'm super duper proud of. Just got me two new bonus sons I'm super happy about, out of Chicago with my beautiful new wife.
Were there some early, really defining moments that really shaped your mindset growing up in Chicago?
So many, so many, so many. The entire journey was just a trip, man. It's a book that
Yeah.
is going to be getting put out here soon, actually. So I had some really intense early transformative experiences that was earlier than I can even remember. When I was one, dad left. As I was saying, I was raised by my aunt and my granny, so dad was gone. But my mother died when I was 2 years old. My brother was just 10 years older than me at 12, and my sister was just about 11 years at 13. So it was really, really traumatic for all of us, how that happened, because it was a violent death. It was suicide, and a violent suicide, unfortunately. And so it was really tough. So growing up with that uh, really shaped a lot of my experiences to this day. Um, you start to you hit an age and you feel bad that it still bothers you or that it's still affecting and things like that. You start to question yourself. So it's definitely been a journey. It doesn't own or control anything. My memories are mine. My experiences are mine. I am not theirs, right? I own them. They don't own me. They work for me.
Yeah.
So I try to keep that attitude, but sometimes, it's not as easy to do so. But as far as the most initial experiences, very transformative, but um, numerous, numerous experiences as time continued, different, traumatic, and also healing experiences
Hmm.
occurred on top of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh,
You talk about identity and you talk about healing. What part of identity would you say that you had or had to confront or even to shatter, in order to become who you are today?
that if people don't have a reason to stick around, they wouldn't. Like people have to have a really good reason to be around me. Me alone isn't enough. So that was something that I didn't even realize was the thing I had to fight through. I didn't even realize that until a few years back. So it took decades for me to understand that that's what was going on. So it starts you at a deficit. I know that for myself, and I know that to be common when those early childhood pains, we talk about ACEs scores for those who are familiar with the ACEs test and testing those early childhood adverse childhood experiences test, where we find out that it affects us the rest of our life, all the way down to rate of heart attack or stroke, right? Rate of stress levels, how we deal with this, how we deal with that. It affects income generation, potential, and never wanting to be a victim.
Yeah.
I'm a one who have had experiences, but the idea and concept of being a victim, or the what all goes with victimhood itself, you don't want to be that. So working against that, hey, I'm not going to allow that to be the defining factor, and really trying to push through, man, it's exhausting though. So those are I things about my identity that I had to work through, but it also created the part of my identity that I won't give up. I got to have it. So it gave me positive behaviors and characteristics as well to my identity, even if they were steeped from an unhealthy place. They were born from something toxic.
You know, when you talk about that, you know, especially when you're talking to men, and it's not often that you have a conversation where you're talking about men and you're talking about men and situations, and you're using the terms of identity and victim and all of that. Those are
Oh, yeah.
not usually the topics of that enter the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about in thinking about that emotional permission, and
Mm.
why would a man think that he needs permission to heal?
Because to actively heal is you first have to acknowledge that you got something to heal from.
Mhm.
And we are societally at different levels in different ways, but from all of society, from other men, from women, from television, radio, however we receive and communicate information, men don't get to hurt very often. So we're seeing a huge pushback on that, which I'm
Not
loving.
externally anyway.
Not externally. No, we don't even get to hurt internally because if we were allowed, now it happens, we hurt. It occurs, obviously, but if it was allowed, we would be able to discuss it, talk about it, heal from it, deal with the repercussions of it. But the natural effects of hurt is considered feminine. The natural responses, the natural human responses. And people wonder why some of us are animals, or they call us animals, or we're just monsters. Like, where's your heart at? Well, I wasn't allowed to have it. Like,
Yeah,
we may need somebody to tell us, like, hey, bro, it's cool.
yeah.
No, they did something to you. Now we're used to things being done to us, and then it's like, get over it. But what about that middle part of the experience of it itself?
I talked
You know,
about that. Yeah.
let me recognize this experience happened, that this hurt me. Now I'm folded up. I got my heart broke. I'm scared. Men don't get to be afraid. We don't get to be afraid.
And then there's trauma associated with the fact that it's having to be suppressed.
1000%.
Yeah.
1000%. If you suppress something that's natural, it's
Yeah.
going to come out in other ways. You can only
Yeah.
do it for so long.
So, I kind of based some of the thoughts on this podcast when we hear that song, The Man in the Mirror. I said that we don't look close enough at the man or woman in the middle. And when you talked about your past and some of the things that happened, but I always believe in, and one of my thought processes is that life is connecting lines and dots, because everything that happened then affects now. So how do you think that we can honor the past without dragging it into every room we walk into?
So in psychology, there's different therapeutic approaches, and even the experts disagree on things. You know what I mean? So there's no one way of doing the thing, right? Participant focused therapy and positive psychology. And I adhere more so to the the school of thought of positive psychology approach, a positive psychological approach. And what that is a focus on not the worst thing that happened to you, because we're not the worst thing that happened to us. Let's acknowledge it.
Let me see. Did you say we are not the worst thing that happened to us?
We are not. Exactly. We are not our worst day. We're not the worst experience we've had. As a matter of fact, the fact that my mother died so young, let's say that's the worst thing that ever happened to me. The fact that that happened, it's not the, oh my God, it's the you survived that. That's a part of my emotional resume now. That is something that I survived that many people have not. Most people have not, especially for that length of time. That speaks more to my endurance, my strength, my tenacity, um, uh, my resilience more than anything, because resilience can be lost. That's why I appreciate your question, right? So we acknowledge what we've been through, but we don't live in it. And I don't even have to figure it out. I don't even have to get to the bottom of it to move past it. Let's now, positive psychology, instead of focusing on what went bad, when have you stopped your depression? When have you felt yourself becoming depressed and you were able to effectively distract yourself? Oh, well, I remember, I would play a video game. All right, cool. Let's focus on that. Now we're going to focus on a solution. And we say that in business all the time. That's what I love about business. Business is psychology that has to work right now. Some of the best lessons I've learned was in sales.
Well, I've heard it said that you're busy, so busy trying to provide that we don't have time to process what's going on inside of us,
Mm-hmm,
deal with us, and to give
mm-hmm.
ourselves permission to really process that, especially pain from so many different
And
levels.
we need to. I
We
don't
do
want to act
need
like we
to,
don't. We have to do that.
but it
We
shows
have,
up in everything that we do, like in leadership and in business. And sometimes it seems like it can be such a confusing process, internally confusing,
yeah,
which
yeah,
flows out externally
yeah,
in a lot
yeah.
of ways.
And there's a school of thought that says confused minds do nothing. That's when that's an option. When it's an option, so in business, yeah, confused minds do nothing. You're trying to get a message across. If you confuse them, they're just not going to take the message. However, a confused mind acts out. When it's internal confusion, now we're just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. But the spaghetti is different behaviors, some more intense than others. And we may destroy relationships in that process. When is the last time taking that kind of time or showing that kind of vulnerability been thrown back on us? I speak a lot talking about men and mental health. And it's like, yeah, everybody's participating in the bad mental health of men, right? Like, it's not just men that's pouring into this. Everybody is pouring into this because when you bring it up, when you mad, you bring up my worst moment, I'm never doing it again. Well, I was upset. You shouldn't hold on to it. I don't care what you think. I'm telling you, it will never, ever, it would never, the moment that is weaponized against us, and I'm not saying that's unique to us, but women do have more social space to deal with it and heal from it than men, right? They got more social space to deal with it, even when it is that that moment of healing is abused because they may be with somebody messed up, right? But when it's tossed back on us, first off, it's also often not even seen as an offense.
Mhm.
So many violations against us aren't even seen as violations at all. They're not seen as violations at all, right? So we have a lot that we're trying to process and work through. And because we don't have the full support of our environments, then it takes even that much more effort, or else it will act out. We're gonna act out and it's gonna show up.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, I done slapped a mug trying to go get some. You know what I mean? I done went to the grocery store, I put hands on somebody, and you're like, you need to relax and calm down. Like, all right, I'll do it.
Wow, that's
Oh,
funny. Well,
trying.
let me ask you this though, because you've kind of spoken and you've taught and spoken in rooms with entrepreneurs and students, artists, executives, leaders. What would you say is maybe a common thread or a limiting belief that you find in all of those circles?
I'm doing it wrong is a comment. The self-doubt, imposter syndrome, oddly enough, hits so many. It shows up different ways. Um, the fear of screwing up the opportunity, right? Deserve, that concept of deserve. I don't deserve it.
Mm.
No matter what I do, you already got it. You already got it, and you're worried you don't deserve it. That's like me I want to make sure I deserve these gray hairs. I got them. I got them. I can have faith that if I ain't deserve them, I wouldn't have got them. Right. So those are some beliefs that I've seen throughout. But the thing is, we're all the same people.
Mm-hmm.
We're all 10, 11-year-old kids that's been around 20, 30, 40 more years.
When I think about that, some people, I was at a homegoing service for one of my best friends, you know, and a lot of good things. And then I see people who have had relationships and friendships from childhood or from high school and da 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 da. What role do you see? I don't know, mentorship, brotherhood. What do you see? How do you see that as playing into helping a person move from surviving to thriving? I mean, because all of us don't have brotherhoods, that we're connected to, and some of us are lonely out there, you know?
It's an epidemic, according to the attorney general, former attorney general,
Mm,
right? And I have always said loneliness is one of the most dangerous emotions
mm.
in existence.
Why is that?
We're not meant to be alone. We're not meant to be alone. Even the people who say they're loners, you're not a loner for real. You're not a loner for real. You're a loner in today's American standards. You don't like talking on the phone. You like to live by yourself. Cool. That's a loner. You're not a hermit. You're not the person that live in the cabin and you go hunt for your food and you need to be in a town with no more than 100 people in it,
That's a
right?
real loner.
That's real deal stuff.
So when I
We're
said
not,
I was a loner, I wasn't a loner.
you ain't no loner. Nah, nah.
Nah.
It feel good. It sound, I mean, it feel good. I'm the lone wolf. It's a mystery to it. And it's like, yeah, no such thing as lone wolves either. So,
Yeah.
so I bring that up because what you mentioned falls into, the category of our socialization, right? And our social needs. We need each other. We need each other more now than ever. We've always needed each other. We need each other more now than ever. We are incapable of true, total, raw independence. The
When you say
majority, 99% of people are incapable of that.
and when you say each other, what does each other mean?
What is your group? When I got involved in, oddly enough, right? The poetry community, man, I identified with that, but it was some pieces that did not stick out to me, that didn't hang there. The whole starving artist life, man. Like, I'm cool. That's not what I want. I'm still from the west side of Chicago, and I like buying stuff, right? I want to end. I think I could be a good businessman, so I want to nurture that piece as well. You know what I'm saying? For many of us, is well, my point was like when I found my like business family was weird. It's like, oh my God, I feel like I felt my tribe. You know what I mean? Which was crazy. But you know it when you find it. For a lot of us, it's our family, the family we were born into, right? Sometimes that's what it is for us. That is our connection. And without a close connection, some people can't fathom moving further than driving distance from the family they were born into. They
Yeah.
need that connection. For some of us, it's the family we created, right? Our spouse and children and all of that, or even the friends, right? That have become family because you got family and you got relatives, right? The relatives, the family you were given, Family are the ones that you chose, right? So, and if you're lucky, you got people fall in both categories. Sometimes that's it, but also individuals that I do believe actually there has to be a connections outside of the people that's you've been forced upon, right? People who chose you for you. I think that's reinforcing, is supporting. Hopefully, you all are emotionally mature enough to have relationships where honesty is a major component of that relationship. And that's honesty that you may not want to hear in different moments. That way you can grow and develop something to rub against you to continue the polishing versus a whole bunch of yes men, yes women, or people that don't want, well, I'm just gonna let them, don't want to offend you so much. It's like, no, I need somebody close enough to be willing to maybe offend me because they want me to know what's real. So, but they say it takes, I heard the other day, it takes 8 minutes for someone to not feel alone anymore, to not feel alone in a moment of deep,
Can you
of
expound on that a
desperation.
little bit?
In the moments where loneliness becomes this heavy thing for us, right? Where I've had moments, and I'm not sure if you have as well, where I was just crushingly lonely, just by myself. I've been experiencing that the last couple of years. It's been weird, my relationship with loneliness. I've been more alone than ever before.
Yeah,
Uh, the last year or 2 years, and the weight is just like, oh my, like, it's, you really feel like the only person on the planet. It'll do something to your mind,
I get
right?
that.
And social media engagement and things like that, it's like eating hollow calories. You think you're eating, but you're not. You're going through the motions, but you're not getting any nutrients. Even this is only kind of real at the end of the day. You could really be a souped up AI that's set up like my friend,
Yeah,
you know?
true.
So screens for me, and I don't know if this is my neurodivergence, if this is how many people feel and don't know how to acknowledge it or verbalize it, or I'm just weird, but things through the screen ain't as real as doing things in real life to me. It's just not as real. It doesn't feel as real to me.
Yeah, it gives a
The
whole new meaning to artificial intelligence, doesn't it?
brother, real for real, you know?
Artificial communication.
There's no warmth, no connection. And
Yeah,
me being that empath type individual and being a Pisces, and like connection is everything to me. So it's static and it's raw. So there's a loneliness. My point is, when that loneliness occurs, and for those that's watching who may be able to identify with those moments that I'm referring to, they say it takes 8 minutes, like, of connection. Like if I call you, if you took 8 minutes on the phone with me, when I hang up, I wouldn't feel alone. I wouldn't feel lonely anymore in that moment. My loneliness would be lifted to a degree, right? I haven't done the research on, you know what I mean? Seen the studies behind that, but I like it. It's worth a shot. Why not? Right? Eight
so, I
minutes.
mean, it just says that people need that then. I mean,
People need it. We
what
need
you
each
just
other.
said can really literally shift a person's whole perspective in the moment. In the moment.
Really can. Really can. It
That's
really can.
amazing.
That's why when I'm on the phone with brothers, because I know it's not easy for us to say our needs sometimes. Hey, are you okay? Do you need me right now?
You said that to me before. Are you okay?
You good?
And when you said that, I was almost like, what you talking about, Willis?
Which is
But I
fair.
got it. I did. That was
Yeah.
the rebellious part of me that did that
Yeah. Yeah.
because I didn't want to feel like I needed you to ask me that. question.
Yeah. What am I putting off? Am I looking weak? What did I do to make them worry if I'm okay or not? Do I
Yeah,
not look? Do I not seem okay? Am I showing vulnerability? Oh, because we stay in battle mode. We stay in battle mode so our families don't have to.
exactly. Exactly.
My wife, man, I love this woman so much, and I appreciate she's tough. She's tough, Chicago tough. And Kat will tell me, she's like, baby, I just love being with because we've been long distance for like the last 2 years, right? Our first 2 years of our marriage is insane. I'm going home now because I'm going back to Chicago. But I'm done with that part. But she's like, she just said how much she loves being with. She was like, I don't have to think about this stuff. I don't have to think about what's coming around the corner. I could not think about it. And she honors me for thinking about it, right? So first
Mhm.
off, props to her for recognizing that that is bandwidth that I'm now taking up. You just doubled my bandwidth,
Yeah. Yeah.
more than doubled,
Because when it's
more than
taken off
doubled.
of somebody, it's put somewhere else.
Man, because I'm
Yeah,
thinking about her now. I'm thinking, man, making sure she good as we walk and where we at. Boom, boom, boom. Get on the inside. We're in a constant state of that. So our antenna are always up.
no
Uh,
doubt.
and others benefit. And we wouldn't do it no differently. I'm not even complaining about that. I want her to
Just the
feel
way it
solid. I
is.
want my kids to feel solid. When you with me, I want you to be like, man, I'm with Harold, man. I'm I know I'm with a real one. We gonna be all right. I'm not gonna be the only one out here. We're gonna be able to do our thing. But let's just acknowledge the bandwidth that it does take up, right?
So,
So
so what do you think about a man who, I mean, when we talk about emotions and such emotional literacy, as you might probably call it, but the ability to maybe read what we feel, but what happens when a man can't read himself, and what's the consequences of having emotional ignorance and not
oh man.
understanding?
And we're talking about EQ.
Yeah.
Right, right. Officially, we're talking about the emotional intelligence and the different stages and the different, the five different parts of that. And one of those parts is that self-awareness and being able to know what we're feeling, recognize it for what it is, where it's coming from. And also, man, let me recognize how what I'm doing may be affecting other people as well. That emotional intelligence, lack of emotional intelligence lands anywhere from the prison to the grave,
Mm.
right? Not um I heard years ago that one of the most common um characteristics of violent offenders in prison is the inability to verbalize and communicate their feelings.
Yeah.
But it made sense to me because I think about the times I've been in arguments where you know my stress triggers, go on, and next thing I know, I can't get it out. I can't communicate how I'm feeling, and I don't know. Ooh, and next thing you know, you just getting jitter, and you moving, and you feeling it. I didn't punch the wall.
Would you say that you can't do get out that without it coming out the wrong way? Or would you just say can't get it out?
It depends on the moment in time.
Yeah.
So we got to give ourselves grace because there are internal things that change.
Yeah.
Right? There are internal mechanisms that go into play when we get a stress response or a trauma response, a threat response, rather. And when that threat response kicks in, is what we all are very familiar with, part of it, which is the, fight, flight, freeze. And don't think of the word freeze as freeze, think about it as fight, flight, shut down.
Mm.
And when we think about it that way, it's like, ooh, yeah, that's me. Ooh, we shut down, especially when we're dealing with someone we want to make sure we don't flash on, we don't lose it on, right? I don't want to talk to my woman this way. I don't want to talk to my kids this way. I know I got a little monster in me though. It showed up in them streets before, or in different environments. So I'm just gonna shut down. Okay, all right, okay. But in those moments, that sympathetic nervous system is kicking in. That vagus nerve is is triggered. Now blood is leaving my prefrontal cortex and it's rushing back, to the amygdala and the different areas of the brain that now wants me to survive.
That's why I keep some
So,
ice water close by.
brother, I can't even it's my entire executive function
Somebody don't know what
has
that
been
means,
drained.
but you got to stimulate that vagus nerve sometimes.
Man, we
Man,
got to do things for that parasympathetic nervous system to help cool us down. Come here, breathe, take a breath. The ice water, those distractions, that helps the parasympathetic nervous system kick in to kind of try to calm it down. But in that moment, we can't express it the right way. It's
yeah,
impossible. And that's why we have to be able to have the self-awareness to feel it happening, and then when we know we're not in a place, regardless how the other person may feel about it, and this is tough in romantic scenarios, I got to take a minute. I got to take a second. My granny always taught you let a man walk away when he needs to walk away. You
my
never stop a man from walking away.
my son will say when he gets in a tight situation like that, he says, "I gotta go to the store. I gotta go to the store." You know?
Brother, arguing drained me so much, I got to take naps. I
See,
be done afterwards. My
well,
whole system, it felt like I ran a marathon fighting and arguing. I'm tired.
so what do you say
So
to the
hopefully that answered.
what?
That
Yeah, yeah, that's good, man. We got into, I'm glad that we talked a little bit about some of the countermeasures, like we don't hear talk about stimulating your vagus nerve to, to slow your heart rate from palpitating and things like that.
I'm sitting here with a little fidget spinner right now. You know what I mean? I
See?
keep it like just to keep my brain, focused and things like that. So
You have to do that. So what do you say to the guy who I mean you're spiritually grounded, but at the same time you're not preachy, but how would you say your faith has anchored you when everything around you felt unstable? And what about the guy who is not connected like that?
never let the facts get in the way of your truth. And I'm gonna explain that because that could be dangerous and taken wrong and all of that. Facts are things that we know. It's a fact. We understand it enough to know, to trust that it's a fact. But if I only based off my my processes off of what I knew and my decisions and all my emotions off of what I knew, then that puts me in a really tough place if I don't know enough. That means I can only be as happy as my current knowledge level. I can only be as joyful or as and make decisions as positive as my level of knowledge. So that can't be the only way. There has to be some faith in here. There
Yeah.
has to be trust. That's what trust is important. It's not trust if you have all the facts and everything. So some of that has to be in place. And the world is messy and things don't click perfectly.
Yeah.
Nothing actually does. And because of that, we have to, I believe, it helps me and it helps so many to believe in, no, actually, I believe this is important universally, to believe in things larger than where we may be in the moment, right? And that is a set of principles, a set of guiding things, guiding principles, guiding philosophies. So when I'm in the heat of the moment, I don't have to try to make a decision off of each and every situation. Some things are universal. I'm like, hey, is somebody getting hurt? Oh, somebody's getting hurt. Then, all right, I'm leaning towards against that
Yeah.
because somebody's getting hurt. And I don't want those different things help. I say all of that to say, when we're struggling from a mental health perspective, we're in depression, our ADHD is got our thoughts bouncing everywhere. We have these different elements going on. I got to believe in something that's bigger than me because I don't like me right now.
Mhm.
Who do
Mhm.
I believe in when I don't trust me anyway?
Yeah. Wow,
Where
that's
do I
good right
go?
there.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I look at how things have at times been miraculous, how I ended up on the other side of it. And those amazing moments cause me to sit back and say, amazing can happen to me again.
Yeah. Speaking
Because
of
it's possible, right?
right. Speaking of the other side, tell me about a time where you might have been going through some of that and you experienced like a major breakthrough.
So many times.
Yeah.
I gone through it so many times, right?
That's good, but grace is all over the place too, though.
Oh, boy, it's everywhere. It's dripping.
Yeah.
Grace dripping off this place. So it's been moments where I will lose hope or lose faith, not faith, but lose hope. Maybe even lose some faith. Lose some faith, or be in a depressed place or be in a lonely place or what have you, and say, all I could do is all I can do, and all I can do is enough. There's different mantras that are very, very helpful. And we do not minimize mantra, because mantras is how we reprogram our unconscious, and what our unconscious believe is what we're getting. So the only way to change what we're getting is to change what we believe, not what we believe. When we say what we believe, that's our conscious. Yeah, I believe I deserve $1 million. Your unconscious don't believe you deserve $1 million, so you ain't getting it. You know what I mean? So we got to totally reframe the unconscious. That happens through mantra. So one mantra, hey, all I can do is all I could do. All I could do is enough. I've done what I could. I do everything I can. Got to do everything I can. I love that one, right? These are cool little sayings, but in moments of desperation, that's all you could think of. And sometimes that's all you got.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being sad.
Yeah.
Just don't want to be sad no more, right? So I'm going to focus on the joy. What I think about, what I focus on expands. What I think about, I bring about. So let me think about that positive. Let me think about that positive. And now, instead of me seeing the world through this small little piece, just this little piece that only sees the worst, my vision can open up wider and wider. And now I can see the solution. It's not magic, and it's not mysticism, and it's not this all just blind spirituality and you lazy, so you just saying God and Jesus. And some people are lazy and they just say God and Jesus. Let's be way 100. Some people put a whole lot more work in that realm, and it's like, you haven't done your part yet. Don't put that over there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is that it absolutely makes sense. Our mind has the solution for every problem we got.
Yeah. It's there.
We have the solution right here. Can we pull back those emotional filters enough so that we can see the solution that we already know? That's the question.
Yeah. I heard it said that everything that you need for your future has already been deposited into your past.
Come on, man.
You know?
See,
See?
that's the perfect way to say. Why'd you let me talk for 10 minutes? You could have just.
Well, hey, look, and I'm going to shift it a little bit in a different way
Yeah.
because you're a speaker, but not just a speaker, you're a brand builder, you're a writer, you're a poet, and that in and of itself is a whole nother level of vulnerability. So what made you
Oh,
put pen to the paper in the first place, knowing that really, really is saying, I'm putting my vulnerability in writing?
Uncle Sonny.
Uncle Sonny.
I blame my Uncle Sonny, man. My Uncle Sonny, good old double I from the west side of Chicago, baby. But Uncle Sonny would come home and recite poetry to me. And Uncle Sonny was he was old school, he was OG old school Cal. Old school game banker, stick up, man. Come home high, drunk, and recite The Raven, Annabelle Lee to me by memory. We'll recite and then recite some Dolomite. Let me get, some cool. And
Balance,
then I
got
get
a
some
little
cool
bit of
shooting
balance,
monkey.
right?
I get some signifying monkey, some cool
Signifying
shooting
monkey.
monkey up in there, Hurricane Annie.
Oh no.
It's,
Oh no. Don't have me
everybody
start
can't
singing Take Me
appreciate that.
Back.
Brother. So I would stay up late and sneak in the back when my aunt and my granny thought I was asleep just to listen to him recite me poetry and tell me street stories, from the neighborhood and things he and my other uncles had gone through. And the poetry just blew my mind, man. The rhyme of it. He had a way of, I mean, The Raven, anybody knows, is very long, and he's reciting it from memory, right? Straight out of the street, 1 a.m. You reciting it from memory. And he giving it to me. And it's taking so long to go through it because every line he's stopping and he's like, did you hear how that line rhymed with that line? Did you see, that's bad. Boy, that's what I'm talking about. That poet, like he had an appreciation that was so bone deep for this poet. And I'm 10, 11, 12. So once I'm 14, I still never saw it in writing, even though my whole house was readers.
Mhm.
Everybody was a reader, from the drug addict to the Sunday school teacher, auntie, to granny sitting in the front watching us stories. You know what I mean? Anywhere in my house that you stood or sat, book was in arm's reach. So under the couch, if you reached under the couch, there was at least two books under the couch. There was books under the chairs. There was always a book in arm's reach. That's the one thing. We was broke, we was poor, we was all of that. We struggled, but we always read. I cannot appreciate my family enough for that and say that enough, because so often we look at poor communities like they all just one big ass stereotype, and it pisses me off. Like every household is just full of drugs, or every household. No, it's amazing families and households and people and thought leaders and some of the most intelligent people you ever met, the biggest hearts you've ever met, the most amazing individuals in that house, and sometimes in the same house with the killer, right?
Yeah.
With the dope dealer. And some don't play that at all. You know what I mean? You can't cross the threshold. So anyway, the diversity of the family diversity in the hood needs more recognition. But he would recite that stuff, got me all passionate about it. When I turned 14, I finally read it. I still had never read Edgar
So
Allan Poe.
you knew about Kipling before they were teaching it to you in school, huh?
Oh, long before, years before. So when she finally brought it up, I was like, oh my God, you got it in writing? I could
I
read
know
it.
Rudyard Kipling.
Only For years, I had only heard it. I had never read it. And I read it and had to write a poem for Valentine's Day. I was like, well, I've been listening to poetry and I'm 14 now. I got a little Mac Daddy in my blood, you know what I'm saying? I got some words. Let me, and the homegirls read it in 8th grade. They liked it. And I kept writing. I wrote a new love poem every day. But the thing about writing, eventually your true feelings come out. My mother killed herself. I've been dealing with that. I've been suicidal since 6 years old.
Mhm.
So I had to next thing I know, I'm writing about my dad leaving and feeling alone. I got his name, right? I'm Harold Branch the third, but I never met another branch in my life because I had never met that side of the family. Why did he not want me? Even after my mother died, why did my mother want to kill herself? I don't want to be here either. Should I do that? And I'm writing and I'm crying, and it's the pain, it's the agony, it's the not feeling accepted, it's the feeling different in the neighborhood. I've always been a sensitive spirit, very connected, growing up in a war zone at the height of the crack epidemic in West Side Chicago, Independence and Flournoy. It's not a lot of room for that. So I had to toughen up. I had to deal with it. We fight every day. It's just what we do. So I had to shed a lot, deal with this. It was just the pressure and the weight was so heavy. And it came out in that poetry and it felt good. And honestly, if it wasn't for the poetry, I would have shed all my sensitivity and I would have become a monster. I was on my way. I
Yeah.
would have become a monster. I'm so glad I had that. But I used that as my therapy, as a way to get my true feelings out. And because it always started that way, it always continued to be that for me. So that is one thing I have been is honest about my emotions
Is,
um,
is there
for a really
anything?
long time. And I'm grateful for my friends and those who have been around me for, through my different phases um, to give me room for that. But I also had to fight a lot too. You know what I mean? It had to be balanced with the I don't take that. Like
Yeah.
it's a trip. It's a trip.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's
Is,
not
is
easy,
there
but it's worth it.
is there any of are there any of your writings, books, poems that actually challenge you when you reread it?
Oh my God. So I started to write my memoir, Becoming HB.
Hmm.
And I got
I saw
to
that.
a part about being in first grade. And I was always into school, but I was never good at it. In first grade, I struggled reading, right? Go figure. And my first grade teacher beat me pretty bad in front of this class, really embarrassing. Even after the fact was more embarrassment because I told, and it was pretty bad. And I had to get taken out of the school and all of all of these different things, right? Well, and she said that I wouldn't be able to learn at all, and wanted to put me um, in classes um, for very intellectually challenged kids. Well, that's where they throw you away in the neighborhood. I would have been over for me. I'm finishing my doctorate here, right? But at the time, she said I would never learn to read at normal pace. And that messed me up. I didn't realize how much it wasn't until I was writing the story out. I had mentioned it here and there to people, but writing it, I could feel it. I saw it. I smelled it, the hits and the salt from the tears when I was beat but couldn't cry and the embarrassment. It was really reliving this thing, man. It messed me up. I ended up not writing in the book for another year. It brought up traumas, and then I had another scenario that brought up me having to move to Arizona and the conditions that occurred, that where I really met and dealt with my father. It it I didn't I realized in writing these things how much they messed me up and traumatized my unconscious, and
Mhm.
how much of my movement and issues and challenges resulted from those early experiences that were no longer in my conscious or even subconscious mind, but in my unconscious, they had wreaked havoc. I couldn't even recall the depth of it if I wanted it to, but they were wreaking havoc. And I didn't realize it until I tapped into that when writing about it.
You know, a
So, yeah,
poetry, writings. I mean, they're their own journals as
yeah.
well, you know. So if you just had to maybe leave behind one of your poems or writings for your son or even the next generation, which one would it be, and what would you hope that they get from it?
I have two. One, I wrote a poem for my son and I wrote a poem for my daughter. Years to complete these poems, decades. The one I wrote to my son is called Your Joy. And the crux of the poem is really that The revolution is in Black boys' happiness. Revolution is in our happiness. Don't let them take our joy from us. We've already had a whole lot of people die for us. They would be devastated if we were here and couldn't smile. Joy is an act of defiance, control. They can control everything. Viktor Frankl talked about it. They could control everything, but they don't get to control our mind. And that chasing that joy and that happiness, I would want our Black men, our boys to know that, to own that. Men in general, humans in general, joy. The poem I wrote for my daughter is called Hide and Seek. And the premise of that, the basis of that poem, is me telling my baby that through her phases, through childhood, through school, career, motherhood, aging, that I will always find her. I will always find her. She will always be my baby. And that is something I believe every Black woman, every woman of color, every strong woman, every woman who had to stand on their own when it would have been nice to have some help, who doesn't or hasn't felt looked out for. One of that they should feel that. They deserve to feel that, to
Yeah.
know that.
And then, that's something about presence, and that just talks about presence, and presence is more than a platform, you know.
Yeah,
And I was talking to someone maybe just today about the importance of just showing up, you
yeah,
know, how important it is, and just having enough of a drive to show up. And sometimes you show up benefits a lot of people in a lot of ways. And I would imagine that there are times, and have you ever felt when you're in a room full of people doing a poetry event, have you ever felt like there was like a healing going through the room? Just,
absolutely. I
yeah,
wouldn't have been doing it this long if I didn't.
yeah.
We bleed. I cut myself open on this mic. When I'm training and working with other poets, I tell them the way I see it, I get on the mic and I relive every time I redo that poem, I'm living that poem again. So when I talk about do that, I lost my father to a male ego, or my mother's son, or I talk about, Lord help me in these different pieces. I'm cutting wounds open over and over again. I cut my wounds open on stage so people could heal in the audience.
How do you know when it's happening?
Oh, you feel it. Sometimes the tears will show back up. I allow it to stay closer as I'm talking about it. The detail is intense. And you look at the crowd and they're with you, they're locked. And it's not, you never know for sure. You never know for sure because all you could do is share.
Yeah.
Hope it helps. But it's when they show up afterwards and say, that part, what you said, change. Oh my God, that's exactly how I was feeling. That I learned, I was blessed to learn early on that I had a gift for communicating what other people may be feeling and not knowing how to communicate themselves.
Mhm.
I learned
So
that. Yeah.
there's a lot more to you than, man, we even can talk about. I mean, you're involved in the community and so forth. So what kind of things have you found yourself involved in with the community?
First and foremost, I am the community, right?
Yeah.
I am the community. Oftentimes we talk about the work we do like we're outside of it, like we're not a part of it. You know what I mean? So it's really doing what's right for me and my family anyway. And man, many of the places is taking me a lot of work in everything, locked hospital units, mental and behavioral health units, prisons. Um, South Africa, I did a lot of work down there with Gandhi's granddaughter. Excuse me. Actually did some beautiful work down there in the townships, anger management through poetry, life skills through poetry, using expression, right, to address, to deal with, to get a handle on, to start the journey of control, of owning how we feel, honestly,
Yeah.
Did a lot of work with Native communities, indigenous communities in Canada, reservations, here in Arizona. I I did a lot of gang prevention work. Also helping individuals kind of deal with their gang affiliations and working on truces. I mean, you name it. Domestic violence shelters, which allow me to say how much of an honor that was to have that level of trust
Mhm.
and feeling good from a pride perspective that I were able to communicate enough of my authentic self that those women would feel safe having me in their presence, right? Or being around and me being seen as a support and a safety. A lot of work in the gay LGBTQA plus community in the AIDS work. I worked with a pretty large organization that did work with AIDS prevention and understanding and living with it and all of that. So that put me very deep in that community as well. So um, man, any groups that are feeling shut out, worthless, you know what I mean? We
Yeah.
just deserve empathy. It wasn't long ago. I was just down at the black bookstore, right? The one black bookstore here in Phoenix, grassroots, doing some talks and some different things as well. So um, I I like people and I love my people. I love different people. That's my people.
Yeah.
My people is righteous people. You move with righteousness. You my people,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And that can
So
look like a lot of people.
that could look like a lot of people.
Look like a lot of
That could
people.
look like a lot of people
Yeah.
because loving me, loving you don't affect the way I love me.
No.
Don't stop. It don't prevent. Matter of fact, it make me love me even better, right? So that's something I've always embraced. But so many different capacities and so many different ways to go out here and just be positive in society, contribute because it's a whole lot of pain. I taught a communication course for a rites of passage program for young Black girls um, out here. That was a couple months ago. Got a chance to spend some time doing that. So it show up in a lot of different ways, whether if it's one-on-one mentorship or speaking at, Kingdom in the Valley Church for their men's mental health ministry because they're embracing the conversation around mental health in church now, which is so dope, so awesome. So proud of pastors that's doing that
Yeah.
and imams that's doing that. Did a lot of work with the Muslim
Yeah.
Islamic community out here. Assalamu alaikum, Baha'i community, as well. So allow pod to my Baha'i community. So yeah, a lot, but hey, I work with a lot of, atheists and Wiccans and like
Well,
when
I
you
mean,
work
there are a
with kids,
lot
you
of
work with
people.
everybody.
Hey, listen, people like what's the old song? People make the world go round.
You make the world go. I don't want everybody to be like me, man. How
No,
boring is
no, no.
that?
I don't. I
It'd be
definitely don't
so
want everybody to be
boring.
like me, man. It'd be messed up. But when you look at your past, you've talked about your past, and oftentimes we think that uh, our past was a prison, or our past was a bad mark or whatever. But, I always say that we are who we are today because of our past, in some aspect or another. So what do you say? to the person who, maybe they are afraid of stepping into their calling, or maybe they are afraid of their past, and still trying to move forward. What kind of message? Maybe it's to a mentee or to whomever. What would you be your message to that person?
Our past is something we stand on, not get crushed under.
Hmm. I don't have a mic. Well, I can't drop this.
Don't drop the laptop. Don't drop the computer. Not the
I
camera.
can't drop this one here, man. You know, but
It's real.
that was
Just to say it as succinctly as possible.
yeah, that's right. That's
I try
right.
to remind myself I own my past. My past
Yeah,
don't own me. My experiences don't own me. They don't punk me. They don't determine me, and they don't decide me. If I'm gonna be depressed, it's because I decided today to be depressed, not because of something that happened legit 45 years ago, right? It's not because of that. It's because of how I've decided today. So, let that be it's your resume. I really see it as my life resume. I never held jobs for a really long time to have a dope like job kind of resume. And when I say never held them, it's just like I'm just more entrepreneurial than that and working in home-based businesses. That stuff don't count to half the people anyway, right? So I never did corporate America for that traditional Vita or resume and things like that. But you know what? I survived the crack epidemic. I'm an urban war vet.
yeah, yeah,
It's Guess what this says about my ability to pivot, my vigilance, my this, that, and the third. The things we survive, we have gone through are things that we conquered. My past is a laundry list of all of my television show. It's my TV show. And it's a bunch of episodes of different bosses I had to beat.
yeah.
Who wants to see the TV show with no fights, with no bosses, no conflict, no challenges, no ice water? You're canceled. You're
Got to be an
canceled.
enemy. Got to be an enemy.
Gotta be something to fight against. And when I watch my cartoons and my anime, it's like, who's the next big boss? There
Yeah,
has to be another big boss
yeah,
to hone the skills of the hero to
yeah,
make them better. I can't sit here and be enthralled by Lord of the Rings and all these different epic adventures and Star Wars and all this different stuff and be afraid of my own epic journey.
yeah.
Clearly a nerd perspective, but yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Then you get to throw the Lords of the Rings and all that stuff in there, and yeah, man. But so tell us, where can people connect with you and work with you, or hear more about your work?
Man, I appreciate that. Um, I've been on the low, I've been in the lab finishing this doctorate degree. I should be going to defend here in the next couple months. So that is about to be behind. I'm so excited for this transition to go full blown. I could be found on Instagram at becoming HB. Um, I could be found there, home based poetry, Instagram as well, both Facebook, Instagram. I could be found there. My I could always be emailed hb at haroldbranch.com. Right. I'm available. And I will be re-releasing my poetry book that I released a while ago. I will be updating it and revising it. My memoirs will be done. Becoming HB should be done by the end of the year. And so I'm excited to have that published by my next birthday. And my company, Branching Out Coaching and Training Services, is, you know, we're speaking and I'm traveling and training and um, doing coaching work for small groups and individuals in the realm of just performance in our personal lives, relationships, um, professionally, and all of that good stuff. So
Yeah.
I I'm available, and if they could find you, brother, they will always be able to find me.
Oh man, you're very kind to say that, man. You're very
Because you
kind to
stuck.
say that.
You can't get rid of me.
I don't want to. Don't even think about it, man. Don't even think about it. And and
My
just
bad.
said I better call you up just to make sure, just to make sure,
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, I
now
answer every time, and we'll take at least 8 minutes.
there you go, at least 8 minutes, at least. So any final words of wisdom, something that's on your heart right now that needs to be said?
Be intentional. The things that happen on accident aren't the things we want. Be intentional. Love intentionally those around you. Remind yourself to do the things that we take for granted happens automatically. Did you love your spouse today? Did you love on them? Did you love on your daughters, your sons? Have you touched base with your friends? Did you love on yourself today? Did you take time to just think about how you're feeling today? I will say everybody deserves, and this is my motto, happy, healthy, and safe. Happy, healthy, safe has to be the
That's
minimal
good.
requirement.
That's good. That's
You
good.
deserve it. You deserve it. And make sure you're giving it as well. Make sure
Like,
you are not the hindrance to someone else's happy, healthy, or their safe.
no, listen, I have watched your journey and not just your accomplishments, but your evolution. And you
You have,
just,
and I'm grateful to you. I am
yeah,
grateful to you for the model you've been, for the example as a debonair, stoic yet connected, stoic yet connected, smooth, even silent power. I appreciate you. You never know who's watching. And for men who grew up without fathers and things like that, we're always looking for gentlemen who may have us just by a couple years just to see, oh, I like how that brother's doing it. Okay, okay. That's smooth. All right. It makes aging, it makes growing, it makes hitting the different phases of life more palatable and even more and even exciting, seeing you and your beautiful wife, Mrs. Larry. So I appreciate you. I just really, I really want you to know the significance.
I appreciate you, my friend. And hey, listen, what you've done and growing your voice without losing your soul is rare. And I think that
Mm.
you have done it tremendously well. And that's what makes you a powerful voice for this audience. And so I appreciate you once again. And hey, listen, we didn't just do something, but we started something.
Ooh, I like that. Because if
Yeah.
you ever need me,
Yeah, man.
you know,
I
just
just did.
call. I show up with the guitar case.
All right then,
There
man. All right then, man. Hey, listen, man. I got the case too, man. I got the
you
case too.
go. What was
We
that,
we
Desperado?
we can walk in there. We can all
Let's
walk in there with
go.
our case, but we gotta
Come
live
on.
through it though. Those guys didn't make it.
We gonna make
We
it.
gonna make it. They didn't make it.
We ain't come this far not to make it.
No, no, no. They didn't make it. But hey, listen, man. I appreciate it. And listen, folks. I'm just so excited to have had the opportunity to have my friend Harold Branch the third on here to share with you all. So if you all would just do me a big favor and keep adapting, keep adjusting, keep growing, keep reaching for those higher heights. We'll see you the next time on the Shattered Mindset podcast. Take care, take charge, and God bless.